From the Arizona Daily Star and Tucson.com, this is the Wildcast.
Hope everyone had a great bye week. Welcome back to the Wildcast podcast. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us on Apple, Spotify. We're also on the free Wildcaster app. That's kind of like the jack of all trades there, because you get Arizona Daily Star content. Not all of it is free. Some of it is only for subscribers, but you get all the Arizona Daily Star sports content, including the Wildcast podcast. But if you're a podcast listener, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the Wildcast today. Lev, how was your bye week?
You know, it was good for the most part. I had a cold during the middle of the week. I think that might have been just me letting my defenses down, you know, like, oh, I don't have to do anything this week. And my body was just like, yeah, I don't have to fight off any illnesses either. So you're going to get a cold, dude.
Hold my beer.
Which is fine. It wasn't that bad. My sister came into town over the weekend, which was cool. I haven't seen her in a while. I got to say though, like last night, it kind of felt like, you know, like the end of summer vacation kind of thing, end of spring break. Like not that I don't like my job, not that I don't enjoy football or the season, but it had that feel to it, you know, like, oh, back to the grind on Monday.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to explain here, because Saturday nights, and, you know, Lev, as a guy who's been working in sports, I don't know how many times you've had to tell your friends this, or people who have said, hey, after the game, come have some drinks with us, come have dinner with us. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, once the game ends, that's when it starts for me. Like, I am out of commission for the next 3, 4, even 5 hours after the game. And we're working afterwards. And sometimes when you have late kickoffs, 8 p.m. kickoffs, Lev, you're not going to bed till what, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, that is correct. Yes. So it was nice. Yes, it was nice to be able to just watch ball.
Yeah.
On Saturday, I watched most of the Oregon UCLA game, and I watched most of the Cal and Washington game, and a lot of stuff in between. I don't know about you, Justin, but do you feel any better about the performance of the of the Arizona defense after watching Oregon put up 40 again? I mean, they've scored 40 plus points in every game since the Georgia game.
Yeah.
So it's not just Arizona that struggled against Oregon. It's not just Arizona that struggled against Washington.
Yeah.
Washington had what was the score of that game? 28-21.
Yeah, something like
that. But I mean, they're still moving the ball. I think Cal's defense is probably slightly better than Arizona's, but I just think, I don't know. You can opine on this. Tell me what you think, but I know that everyone's freaking out over the Arizona defense, and maybe it's justified, but you look around the conference, look around the country, a lot of defenses are struggling with these really good offenses.
Yeah. Well, and Jed Fish made that point last week during his press conference. Like, hey, Alabama, Tennessee, look how high scoring of a game that was. You look across college football, not just in the Pac-12 and the ACC, but in the almighty SEC, they're putting up a lot of points. This is just kind of the landscape of college football, and the way that college football is right now is very friendly for putting up a lot of points. A lot of these offenses in college football are just designed to put up a lot of points on the board and score quick, and you get a lot of possessions.
He mentioned all the different reasons for it, like the wider hash marks creates a lot more space on the field.
Yeah.
You have all these, like, you know, I don't think it used to be this way, but it's like, hey, we're going to take the best athlete, and he's going to be the quarterback.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how it was like when you were 10 years old playing at recess, but this is kind of how it works now. So you have all these great athletes playing that position who have the ball in their hands all the time.
But it's slowly starting to trickle into the NFL.
Oh, it is. No,
yeah.
There's no doubt. The trends tend to trickle upward. I don't know why. I'm sure people have written about and noted how bad offenses are in the NFL right now. They have not followed the trend that we're seeing in college football. I think a lot of that has to do with some of the really good quarterbacks kind of aging out, you know, so there's kind of a quarterback transition phase. But yeah, in college football, you're going to get really good athletes playing that position. We're going to see that again this week.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams is as good as it gets, and as far as athleticism, arm talent, moxie, all of those things.
Well, I think the reason why a lot of Arizona fans are worried about the defense or just so upset with how the defense has looked is, sure, Oregon put up the same amount of points against Arizona as they did against UCLA, but think about how the defense looked against Cal, right?
That's the one. That's the one.
Where Jaden Ott runs like a madman and kind of – now, Jaden Ott is a good running back, but has Jaden Ott had a game even close to that since then? No.
When you examine the first 7 games, that's the one that jumps out. That's the one that shouldn't have happened. Because Cal is really not very good offensively. They just aren't. I don't think they've scored more than I'm going to look it up while we're talking here, but they haven't scored close to 49 points. I know that in any other game. I think their season high otherwise maybe came against UC Davis. And I will look it up. But, yeah, I mean, Washington scored a bunch of points. Washington scored a bunch of points against everybody.
Yeah.
Oregon scored a bunch of points. Mississippi State, until they ran into Alabama, they scored a lot of points.
They finally scored, by the way. Did you see that?
What, at the very end of the game?
Yeah. They haven't scored in Tuscaloosa since like 2013 or something like that. It was like some crazy streak. And they finally scored. But no, Cal, you look at since that Arizona game, they lost 28-9 to Wazoo. They lost 20-13 to Colorado. And then 28-21 to the Washington Huskies. And this is all after putting up 49 points on a very run-heavy attack from the Golden Bears.
Yeah.
So
their season high in any other game against an FBS opponent came this past week with 21 points. They scored 34 against UC Davis. And then you rattled off some of the others. They had 20 against UNLV, 17 against Notre Dame. So, yeah. That's the one.
Yeah.
That was a really bad. It was a really bad day.
Well, and
a game that game that Arizona was in position to win.
Yeah.
They were up 24-21, right, coming out of halftime, and had the ball.
Yeah.
So I've said this before. That's the one that fans are going to look back upon with regret if they fall short of a bowl berth this year.
Well, and we could also go back and look at the North Dakota State game. North Dakota State, they're a good team, and I'm pretty sure they've won every single game since that loss.
And they lost to South Dakota State.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Well, going back to that game, the Bison had, 283 rushing yards against the Arizona Wildcats. But Arizona, they were able to muster up a couple of defensive stops when it really mattered most. And ultimately, they won the game. So, of course, Arizona fans, they're not really going to look back on that game because, hey, they won the game in the end of things. And that's really all that matters. But, shoot, can you imagine if they had lost that game and then you add the Cal game on top of that? It's just, I know college football, a lot of teams are giving up a lot of points, but not all situations are the same.
No, I would agree. And that was a really good win. That was a weird team. That it was almost like facing Army or Navy or Air Force. I mean, they're going to get their rushing yards, and it was a great job by the defense to kind of rise up at the end, and then the offense also responded and scored a touchdown in between those two drives to give them the lead. I think that Jed's emphasis on takeaways is also a reflection of this conversation that we're having. Like, you're not going to stop people through sheer force of will, strength in the interior, just stonewalling people. But if you can take the ball away a couple times a game, that can make a huge difference. And I think that's going to be, USC's defense has not been great, but they have been great at taking the ball away.
Yeah.
They've been absolutely superb.
State, right?
Absolutely superb in that area. Huge plus in takeaway in turnover margin, and that's a way that you can compensate for some shortcomings that you might have on that side of the ball. And I think too, look at red zone percentage again. It's kind of, especially on defense, red zone touchdown percentage. It's trending the wrong way again for the Wildcats. So I think a couple areas where, hey, they could make a little bit of growth is, again, getting some more takeaways and getting some stops in the red zone. And stop, to me, if you hold a team to a field goal, that is a stop. That is a win for your defense. And they have not been doing that at all lately.
Yeah. So before we dive into our mailbag, Lev, I want to just talk a little bit about USC. A little programming note. I'm actually not going to be here for the Thursday podcast. Lev and Ryan will be holding it down for me. They'll be doing a pod later on in the week. We'll still be posting it. We'll still be doing our Pac-12 picks of the week. I'm going to make sure I'm going to send these guys my picks. Maybe I need a bye week.
Maybe
another bye week.
You're driving with your mom. Maybe you have your mom make your picks for you.
Should probably do better than me. Yeah, we're going to a wedding at Zion National Park, which should be good. But man, I'm very excited for this game. Homecoming. Rob Gronkowski is coming back to Arizona. The last time Rob Gronkowski was in Tucson for an Arizona football game,
a real game,
not a spring game where he's honorary captain or the spring after his rookie season with the Patriots. The last Arizona football game he's ever been to was in 2009 when Arizona had a double overtime loss to Oregon. And when College Game Day came to town, Arizona had a chance to control its destiny to the Rose Bowl, and Gronk was on the sidelines with a back injury. He was out for the season with that year, and went and played in the NFL, had a great career there. So cool to see Rob Gronkowski come back. Super cool to see 3 players get inducted into the Ring of Honor. Ortiz Jenkins, the Leap by the Lake creator, Vance Johnson, who was a great running back for the Wildcats and then went on to play in 3 Super Bowls for the Denver Broncos as a wide receiver. And then one that I'm kind of surprised isn't already in the Ring of Honor, and that's John Button Salmon, also known as the creator of Bear Down, after he got into a car accident in 1926 and told the coaching staff to tell them to bear down. So those 3 are being inducted into the Ring of Honor. It's a big game, Lev. And what time is kickoff again?
4 p.m.
4 p.m.
Nice.
So Ring of Honor induction, Rob Gronkowski coming back. You got a top 10 team coming back. You feel like, man, this is set up for another sellout at Arizona Stadium.
I mean, I thought 6:30 was great. I thought 6 was great. 4 to me is even greater, especially if you're a fan. I mean, you can tailgate in the morning and early afternoon, and you could still go out for dinner after the game.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what kind of mood Arizona fans are in at the end of that game. It's a very high-powered USC offense. It's going to be hard to stop them. It's been hard for everybody to stop them, and they're not going to be they're going to be very focused too because they just lost their last game against Utah. They were on a bye as well this past week, so you're going to get their best shot.
Yeah.
It'll be fascinating to see Johnny Nansen going up against his former school, Hunter Echols going up against his former school. We're going to get, as Jed said on Monday, more of those matchups coming up here down the line. Jaden Delora is going to be facing his former school here in a few weeks. So,
a couple of UCLA guys too. Tia Savea, DJ Ward.
Yeah, that's right. Yep,
Yeah.
that is correct. It's just going to happen more and more
with
in the age of the portal, and you can transfer within the conference. There's no punishment or penalty for doing that. It's the same as transferring anywhere else.
Lev, real quick, before we go into mailbag, what do you think about the quarterback battle? Jaden Delora versus Caleb Williams. Both guys are transfer guys. Now, one is a little bit different than the other. Caleb Williams followed Lincoln Riley to Oklahoma. So Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley, they've had a relationship that goes back the last, 4 years or so, 3 years, where Jaden Delora, him and Jed Fish's relationship started 5 minutes after he put his name in the portal after the 2021 season. So a little bit different relationships, but both quarterbacks have really shined at their new destinations, and I think that's one thing that I'm going to be looking forward to.
Oh, yeah. Great matchup. Caleb Williams was Mr. All-Everything coming out of high school. Everybody wanted him. I think he was a top 5 player in the country. Certainly top 5 quarterback. Got off to a really good start at Oklahoma last year, coming in for Spencer Rattler. And when Lincoln Riley left, he ended up following him to USC. He didn't make that decision right away. He was flirting with some other schools. Remember Wisconsin? Remember that thing came up that he was looking at Wisconsin? That would have been interesting
disaster,
to say the least. I don't think that would have worked out as well as this move has worked out. But he's got the size, the arm, the pedigree, all of that jazz, and a great receiving core to boot. Jaden is a little, to me, like a little bit more of a scrappy underdog. Not as certainly didn't have as much hype coming out of high school. I think he was a 3-star coming in from Hawaii.
But didn't he have an offer from Ohio State? It was he was underrated, but he had a couple big-time offers.
He had some very good offers. And there's some similarities in the way that they play. They're both excellent escape artists who can make those, off-platform, off-schedule type throws. And that I'm going to be writing about that in my notebook here coming up. You can check that out on the Wildcaster app or on Tucson.com. But both very good at avoiding pressure and both very good at making plays that aren't designed.
Yeah.
Ones that are just kind of drawn up. Jaden's performance at Washington, avoiding the rush, was just incredible. I mean, how many times did it almost, we talk about guys having eyes in the back of their head. Like, how many times did he just spin away from someone who's coming from behind?
Yeah.
I mean, I saw quarterbacks over the weekend getting sacked from the front side, and he somehow is able to detect when guys are coming. And I certainly expect that Arizona will need that type of performance from him again on Saturday.
Yeah, it's almost like a point guard. The way he's savvy and able to move and spin out of certain situations. Jaden DeLora has the it factor. There's no doubt about that. And we'll see if he can do it and not play hero ball, right? We've seen in certain situations this year where the moment is really big and he's like, oh man, I'm going to do everything I can. Now he's a gamer. There's no doubt about that. And he shows up, but sometimes he gets, bites a little too much and throws a pick or something like that.
Against UW, I can't remember one play where I'm like, oh, he's trying to do too much or he's forcing the ball. I mean, he ran a bunch and was really effective getting to the edges. That one play he had I think it was in the red zone where he pump faked the dude who just totally jumped, and Jaden might have even been past the line of scrimmage, but he's really savvy.
Yeah.
He understands how to manipulate defenders in that way. And it should be really, really fun to watch. I think a lot of people are kind of expecting it'll be like that game from, oh man, I'm going to get the year wrong. Was it 2014?
2012. Marquise Lee set the Pac-10 rushing or receiving record.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up here.
It was 2012. It's 10-year anniversary. Lane Kiffin was the head coach of the Trojans then, and I think Matt Barkley was playing for USC.
Yep.
Marquise Lee was Robert Woods playing for the Trojans at the time. I believe he was. USC, they were a really good team that year, but that year USC couldn't have gone to a bowl game. They were on probation, I believe. That was their last year on probation. So they had a really good team, and Silas Redd was their star running back, but they couldn't do anything in the postseason because they were banned.
It was 2012.
Yeah,
Marquise Lee had 16 catches for 345 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 123 yards on kick returns in that game. Crazy.
That's crazy.
And hey, thanks for letting me know it's the 10-year anniversary. This will be a good storyline. always on the lookout for this.
I'm trying to get Matt Scott on radio this week. So if you need some audio, let me know.
I mean, the final score of that game, Arizona won the game.
Yeah.
39-36.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people are, I think we can expect a similar type of game.
No doubt about that.
Yep.
And good receivers too, all around. Like Jacob Cowing, T-Mac, Dorian Singer. You look on the other side, Jordan Addison, Mario Williams. We could be looking at a lot of NFL players at the skill position on Saturday. It's going to be fun.
Austin Hill put up a 10-259 in that game.
Yeah.
Craziness.
I know. And then
Matt Scott rushed for 100 yards.
Yeah. I don't know why Rich Rodriguez went away from Austin Hill towards the latter part of his career. They even moved him.
Injured?
They even moved him like tight end a little bit too. Just couldn't really find his role. But man, Austin Hill was a really good receiver at Arizona. But all right, Lev, you and Ryan are going to be talking all things Arizona USC this weekend.
Yep.
10-year anniversary of that game. This game on Saturday. It's going to be a fun discussion. I'm sure Ryan Finley's got all sorts of good stories about Arizona USC and those two. But let's get into the mailbag before we go. Lots of submissions. Thank you all to To those who submitted your questions on Twitter. We kind of made this Halloween theme because Halloween's coming up on this upcoming Monday. So we have a lot of Halloween questions, but we got a handful of Arizona football questions. So starting off, we got Troy Hutchinson, our colleague from Rivals.
Troy hit
us up and said, your thoughts on candy corn and how to dispose of it properly. I like candy corn.
I don't really care for it. I don't hate it as much as some other people do.
Especially those pumpkins. Oh, man.
It can be, it's more decorative to me than anything. But, I mean, my kids go and trick-or-treat, and then they come back, and they pour all the candy out on the floor, and they trade and swap, and they give me all the stuff that has coconut in it because they don't like that.
I'll trade you...
I'll eat all the Mounds and Almond Joy if you guys are not interested in those. But yeah, candy corn, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan, but I also don't hate it as passionately as a lot of people seem to.
Danny Ainge will trade you Russell Westbrook for Almond Joys. But yeah, I don't mind candy corn. I like it, but only it's a seasonal thing. I can only eat it in the month of October. Outside of that, it's not really appetizing to me. All right. The dude 1121 asks, how many new starters do you expect on the defensive side of the ball next season? So not this upcoming week. Now, Jed said that Ephesians Prysock will be earning some more snaps this week. Will he be starting? That remains to be seen, but it could happen. But for next season.
All right, they're going to have a new middle linebacker for sure. Jerry Roberts' eligibility will be up, so that's one. Both defensive ends, their eligibility is up as well. So there's 3. Christian Young's eligibility is up. So there's a minimum of 4. I think that Christian Roland Wallace could enter the draft. So that would make 5. Jackson Turner conceivably could enter the draft. So I'd say 5 or 6,
maybe 7
in all likelihood. And Keon Barr has not had, I wouldn't say his stock is rising based on this season. He might want to come back for another year. Paris Shand, another guy who I really had high hopes for this year, hasn't had a ton of production. He'll probably be back. So probably 2 guys in the secondary, 1 linebacker, 2 defensive ends at a minimum.
Brad Malone asks, what's your favorite Halloween holiday movie? I'm going with Nightmare Before Christmas. # Padres 2023 champs. Sorry to your Padres, Brad. Sorry to Ryan Finley's Padres.
So what is the question? Halloween?
What's your favorite Halloween holiday movie or just Halloween-themed movie?
Oh, man. I
don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if I've got anything movie-wise. Like, I love all the Treehouse of Horror episodes that The Simpsons have put together. I love how certain shows that I've liked over the years have had really awesome Halloween episodes, like Stranger Things. I'm pretty sure I want to say it was the season 3, episode 1. I'm probably getting this wrong, but they had a really good Halloween episode as well. But movie-wise, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah. I used to love Halloween TV episodes, like Halloween episodes of Home Improvement, Halloween episodes of like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. 90s TV shows, 90s sitcoms had the best Halloween-themed episodes. But in terms of movies, I got to go with maybe some Disney Channel originals, like Under Wraps is a good one. Maybe throw back, do Alfred Hitchcock movies? Is that considered Halloween themed? Like,
maybe
like Psycho and
Stranger Things.
Birds?
It was Stranger Things was season 2, episode 2.
Okay,
was the Halloween one. But yeah, I mean, are those Halloween movies or just scary movies?
Yeah,
suspenseful movies.
Yeah,
I'm not
Love
sure.
Birds.
I mean, we should have Brian Peterson on to answer this one because he's like really. This is our colleague at AZ Desert Swarm. He's very into horror movies. He could probably rattle off 5 just off the top of his head.
All right, Jamie Casillas asks a couple questions. Do you think Arizona should put in the freshman corners? Also, why you think Arizona doesn't try and see what it has out of Jason Harris? Jason Harris has length, could bat down maybe a couple of Caleb Williams' pass attempts on Saturday, or other quarterbacks. He's a basketball player playing defensive end, and he's still trying to figure things out and grow into his body. I think he could have a role next season. This year, I think kind of studying Jalen, studying the other guys who are playing in front of him will do him some good. I still think Jason Harris can be a great player, but obviously his best days are ahead of him. As far as the freshman corners, I think we're going to see Ephesians Price talk a little bit more, and then Takario Bobo Davis a lot more next year.
Yeah, I think if you look at the games played, that Prysock already has passed that threshold for redshirting, where Takario Davis hasn't, and that, as Jed indicated during his presser on Monday, that is a factor. They're looking at that with a lot of these guys to see whether they can preserve the red shirt or not, and what's in the best interest of the team short term versus long term, that kind of deal. I would definitely love to see Ephesians Prysock out there. He's got a lot of length and he showed a lot of ability. He's been here since spring. I think he's ready to step in, and what I would do probably is just have him split time with Traden Stukes, who, I don't know, he just hasn't looked the same to me since he suffered that knee injury. Just hasn't been, he doesn't look as comfortable in his movements. So that's definitely a guy that I would look at. What was the other part of that question?
The freshman corners, and then hold on, I scrolled down a little bit, and then see if Jason Harris, what he can do this year.
Jason Harris is an interesting one. I mean, he's kind of he's a developmental project, right? I mean, he's got a lot of stuff that you like in terms of his length. How long his arms are, how fast he can run. But man, it is so hard when you're that tall to play with the leverage that you need to defeat, college offensive tackles. So I think it's a learning process for him still. Frankly, Tai Yungalale has passed him on the depth chart. Tai has passed Jeremy Mercer too.
Yeah.
And the guy who's kind of stepped into as that second defensive end behind Jalen Harris. So I think let's give it one more spring and off season for Jason Harris.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's on the same timetable and everyone's journey is different. And I think the talent is there. We've seen it in flashes at times in practice. And, it's just a matter probably of consistency and playing again with that pad level, which is a really hard thing to do when you're 6'8".
Boog asks, I want to know when some different DBs get a shot. Same corners getting burned. Give me a couple freshmen who got everything to play for. Seems like
we've addressed
this. We've addressed all of this.
You're not going to take Christian Roland Wallace out of the lineup. He's actually one of the highest rated corners in the Pac-12. He has been by far Arizona's best corner. I think Jed said it. Prysock's going to be out there. Now, what's going to be interesting to see is, are they going to have any kind of a different defensive formation? Might we see three cornerbacks? Like that would have been, you didn't have as much time to do it, but that would have been a great way to match up against Washington, which is playing three wides all the time. USC, I think, is going to play three wides all the time as well. So the more guys you can have out there who can cover, the better. But then it's like, okay, if you do that, then what about DJ Warnell? Where does he fit in to the plans?
Yeah.
Maybe you put him at linebacker. I think they said he was the number 2 Sam linebacker when they went to that 4-3. So that might be an interesting wrinkle. There was like a kind of a 3-3-4, or I'm sorry, a 3-3-5 look.
It's like Marcel Yates
where
all
you
over
have,
again.
Yeah, well, 3-3-5 is popular and successful.
Yeah.
The Rocky Long defense, a lot of guys are using that out there in the world. And it's hard to find defensive linemen, right? Well, maybe you just play one fewer and play 3 linebackers and 5 DBs instead.
Well, this kind of goes along the lines of our next question, and that comes from M. Pays a P-Zona. And the question is, what's a weakness Arizona coaches can look to attack in USC?
Yeah, I think it's their defense. They don't have a great defense. I mean, USC tried to, Lincoln Riley and his staff tried to remake the roster on the fly, and they did an exceptional job of that. I'm not sure any team has benefited more from the transfer portal this year than USC, but it's hard to fix every single problem that you have. They brought in some good players on the defensive side of the ball for sure, like Mekhi Blackman, the cornerback from Colorado is a really good player. And oh man, I'm going to botch this. I think it's Eric Gentry.
Eric Gentry, the guy from ASU.
Yeah, 6'6", defensive end from ASU.
Shane Lee.
There's another guy, Shane Lee. So they've done a really good job, but that side of the ball has not played as well as the offensive side of the ball for USC. So if there's an area, that's it. Again, once again, I think we're in that mode of, Arizona needs to try to outscore the opposition in a shootout type of game.
Couple turnovers, couple takeaways, give the offense back to the ball.
Yeah, I mean, look, they got those 4th down stops against Washington. Those are, as Jed said, those are pretty much the same thing as a turnover. You get the ball back.
Yeah.
On the next play, they need, I'd say, like 3 to 4 combination of turnovers, 4th down stops, hold them to a field goal, etc., and then scoring 80% of the time that they have the ball.
Is this a game where you bust out a spy? Like, we haven't seen Ammon Allen much this year. I feel like if you're going to have a linebacker safety type of player outside of Kobe Cage, maybe you want to throw a guy like him out there and be like, hey, you're the Caleb Williams spy. We need you. But then who do you got defending Jordan Addison? And I don't know.
Don't forget about Travis Dye too.
I don't.
So many weapons. This to me is like, this is the kitchen sink game, right? Where you throw
everything.
You've got time. You've got extra time to prepare. You throw wrinkles at USC and try to confuse them or throw them off their game. But the problem with that is you don't want to overwhelm your players with too much information either. You've talked about how they've kind of looked bogged down mentally at times, so you don't want to overdo it either. So kind of a fine line there.
All right, one last football-related one before we get a couple of Halloween questions from UA Kathmandu. They ask, should Jed hire Herm and Lewis, being Marvin Lewis, as defensive analysts? Hire the former leaders and get some insight on the Sun Devils.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I don't think you can do that mid-season.
But, okay, I referenced earlier how offenses are struggling so much in the NFL. And I heard someone say that a lot of NFL teams are using the Vic Fangio defense. Jed Fish is very good friends with Vic Fangio, who I believe is unemployed currently. So, Vic might very well get a defensive coordinator job in the NFL next year if so many teams are using his defense, and he seems to be a defensive guru. But that would be a guy, to me, who'd make a ton of sense as an analyst, given the prior relationship and the success that his scheme seems to be having on the NFL level.
Not the Nick Saban coaches retreat that he's got set up. It seems like every year they got another analyst that's a old head coach who just got fired. And they go to Tuscaloosa, and it's almost like rehab.
I was just going to say, guys rehab their images down there, and they learn from Nick and emerge as better coaches.
Like Steve Sarkisian,
boom. Run, yeah.
When hung out with Nick Saban for a couple of years, and now look where he's at. It's fascinating. But yeah, Vic Fangio, I like that a lot. All right, Lev, we got a couple Halloween ones here. Daylight Films ask, what is the strangest costume you've ever seen at a U of A Halloween game? I was at one back in the day, and let's just say it was inappropriate. I don't know. I've really paid attention to like Halloween costumes at games. I've seen some Star Wars characters, but other than that, I don't think people wear costumes at games.
I can't recall at an Arizona game specifically. I can't really recall anything off the top of my head, but I think that wearing like Gronk jerseys would be a good way to go for this particular Halloween weekend, with Gronk coming in as the honorary captain. It's kind of the Navy. I think of in my mind, I think of it as navy blue.
Yeah,
48.
Yeah,
on the back. I can't really remember exactly what their jerseys were like.
Great jerseys.
You like that? You have a lot of nostalgic feelings for that era.
The Mike Stoops era is the best era of uniforms, hands down.
That's saying something, because they went beyond them, but they went back to the 90s look.
Yeah.
With the current uniforms that they have. By the way, 48 is the inverse of 84, which is the current
Tanner McLaughlin
starting tight end, Tanner McLaughlin.
McGronklin.
Yeah, it's cool. Jed said that Gronk should be able to attend practice one of these days. He's speaking at the Arizona Bowl luncheon on Thursday. So big week for Gronk here in Tucson. Glad to have him back. We said this before on the pod, but I think it's really smart to have a relationship with the greatest tight end maybe in the history of the NFL from a publicity, recruiting, etc. standpoint. Right? Come to Arizona and become the next Rob Gronkowski. Isn't that, I mean, could there be an easier sales pitch for tight end recruits out there?
And they didn't do that when he was at the height of his NFL career. There was
wasted
just
opportunity.
No relationship whatsoever. And it's like, dude, this is the guy who's at the pinnacle of his game, at his position. And there's just no, hey, let's get Gronk to come back during the summertime when he's got some off time. And I know that Gronk's a busy guy. He's got other avenues and things that he's doing to help his brand. He's got other things to do than to hang out in Tucson for a week. But heck, Jed used his contacts and his connections and got him to come back for the spring game. And he's obviously coming back to be an honorary captain since he's retired. I don't know, just wasted opportunity. But I'm glad that they're getting back to it.
Yeah, like I said, I would hope to see a lot of Gronk jerseys in the crowd on Saturday against SC.
All right. Gustavo De La Torre asks, have you seen Casper Meets Wendy, Halloween Town, Hocus Pocus, or Girl vs. Monster? These are all the movies that I can think since I'm not a Halloween movie type of person, to be honest. Yeah, I've seen them all. Disney Channel originals? Heck yeah, man. Lev?
I don't think I've seen any of them.
All right.
I'll just leave that one for you.
How about Colin? This is the last one. What is Justin selecting out of the candy bucket? Well, beggars can't be choosers, right? So whatever you got, I'll take. But if I had a choice, like if I'm giving my candy power rankings for Halloween, I don't know what it is about Reese's peanut butter cups. They taste so much better when they're in the form of a pumpkin or bat or Christmas tree or bunny. Just like Oreos. For some reason, Oreos taste better when they have the orange cream in the middle of it. And it says boo on the cookie. I don't know what it is about it, but
marketing,
I guess,
psychology.
You see the orange and you're like, this is going to taste instantly better. But Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, Snickers, Sour Patch Kids. Those are my top three.
All right. We've talked about Halloween candy many a time on your radio show.
Too.
On the podcast. I've mentioned earlier how I like both Mounds and Almond Joy. Happily, we'll take the coconut products in my bag, but those aren't my favorites. Like my favorites are definitely Snickers. I like Hershey's dark chocolate a lot. Reese's peanut butter cups. Yeah, those I would say anything. I like the ones. I like usually ones with nuts or peanut butter mixed in. And now there's all sorts of variations on different things too. Like you can get dark chocolate. I'm sure you can get dark chocolate peanut butter Snickers, which is just kind of like, combines all the good stuff into one. But
does Jet Fish have like custom, it's personal candy bars at his house?
I don't know.
Custom Arizona candy bars?
I have no idea.
Jet Fish gives out king size candy bars.
I feel like he hasn't mentioned
he's with it.
It's personal that much lately. This year it's been all about the build.
The desert is rising.
Desert rising. Yeah. Rise with us.
Well, initially it was make it personal.
A lot of talk about the process. So you
Evolve.
it becomes stale if you don't change it up every year, and I think Jed is very aware of that.
Yeah. All right, well that'll do it for this episode of the Wildcast. Thanks to all of our submissions for the week. We'll do another Twitter mailbag next week. Don't forget to listen to the podcast later on this week. Lev and Ryan will be doing an all Arizona USC podcast, getting you guys ready for Saturday's game. They'll also be doing their Pac-12 picks. I'll send them mine so they'll read it over the recording when they get the podcast posted. And don't forget to find all of our work on Arizona football on Tucson.com and the Wildcaster app. Appreciate you guys for listening.